these lines I write, I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch a scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it. So explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it. No scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool. Hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones. Bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursuing.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio Show. Once again with your host Nick Bernabe here on UCY.tv and the antimedia.org/radio. It's Wednesday night, July 20th. And there's a lot of shit going on around the world that we're going to talk about tonight. Make sure you catch us here 5 days a week, same place, same time. Different hosts every day. Monday and Wednesday I'm here with my panel. Tuesdays and Thursdays, SM Gibson with his panel. And Fridays with Levon, a little bit of a different show, but, you know, anti-media theme and breaking down the propaganda and just trying to hammer through all this crazy news that's going on, and there's always a narrative, there's always propaganda, and we're just trying to make sense of it, what's going on here. Anyway, we had a great day today on the antimedia.org, a bunch of viral stories, all kinds of crazy things going on. But let me introduce my panel, because we're going to try to break this down for you tonight. First, my longtime co-host, DB Schwartz. What's up, bro?
Hey, Nick. Just real busy with work, trying to get it all squared away before we leave on Friday for Philly. And when I call in Monday and Wednesday, I will be in Philly, and day 1, day 3 of the DNC, so I'll have some news to report for sure.
Awesome, man. So you're going down to the DNC?
Yep. I mean, it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I mean, people in 68 said they thought they could make the change there, but it didn't last. So here, I guess we can see if people want to keep going and beating a dead horse, or if we want to start with something new.
Yeah, I got a feeling that the DNC is going to be a lot more intense than the RNC. Though
I think it's going to split. I mean, Trump's kind of a joke, and people understand that, and they don't take it seriously and think it's just going to be a 4-year term. And, unfortunately, Clinton, you're continuing a dynasty that doesn't end with her because Chelsea's in the wings. That's the scary future we have to look at.
Interesting. I hadn't thought about Chelsea, but yeah, she's definitely probably got some political life in the future of her. So we'll see how that goes. You know, you were talking about 1968. That's when they had like riots outside the DNC, right?
Absolutely. That was Chicago. So, Philadelphia is a pretty fitting place. What is it? It's 2016. So we're looking at 240 years of essentially a free country that could become crashing to a halt here into a fascist corporate dictatorship kind of thing if Trump gets in. And if Hillary gets in, well, we'll be lucky if we survive the next term. So I think we have to take advantage of an opportunity where a lot of people are pissed off and not making a lot of money and are really angry at where everything's going. And if we don't, dude, I mean, honestly, if we do get into a big conflict, it's going to end in a lot of death.
And the crazy part about this election is that Hillary Clinton is the candidate more likely to get us into
international conflict, right?
Absolutely. I mean, with Trump, you kind of understand what he's going to do. He's going to polarize the entire country, and then we're going to deal with issues that we should have dealt with probably 50, 60 years ago in earnest, which is everybody, whatever they look like, we all have the same needs. We all have emotions. Maybe we follow different ideologies, but in general, we just want to watch our kids grow or whatever, our families be safe. So we got to get to that point because they keep dividing us. They keep conquering us.
Exactly. With Clinton, it seems like more of a threat overseas and maybe a large-scale war, much bigger than anything we're seeing right now. With Trump, it's more likely to see civil unrest, domestic unrest. So pick your poison. Hopefully,
I pick Trump, though, man. We got to deal with these issues going forward. We're going to split apart into like three, four mini countries.
Yeah, I mean, and who knows? That may be for the better. You know what I mean? But pick your poison when it comes to the two mainstream candidates. I mean, it's pretty clear that Hillary Clinton's going to be the nominee for the Democrats. DB, I hope you're right that there's some type of split in the party and maybe a big walkout, and maybe a lot of the people move from the Democratic Party over to the Green Party. I mean, who knows?
Well, it's happening now. It's called Demexit. I'm sure you've seen the hashtag. And basically, any state where the primaries are completely done, you're seeing a turnover of something close to 60 to 80%, and that was the voter block that she's going to lose, and that's how she's going to lose. She can't cook the books in a national election with voter machines. She just can't do it. So, I mean, she's done.
Can't say she won't try, though. Oh, man. Also joining us on the call tonight is one of our awesome journalists, Jake Anderson. What's up, Jake?
Not much. Looking at the RNC stuff, I'm surprised, DB. I'm surprised you're so certain that Clinton will lose. A lot of people are a lot of people think that Trump is just poison. There's no way he can win.
Well, true, but once he pulls the gloves off and brings to light things Bernie wouldn't touch because he's in the same party, and because Trump, frankly, is probably not too worried about being assassinated by Clinton, I think he's going to pull off the dirty shit, man, and he's going to let everyone know she's a monster. He's an annoying businessman. He's a demagogue, but she's an absolute monster.
Yeah, they're both monsters, yeah. But, yeah, otherwise...
Who has Trump killed, though? Please answer me that one. I mean, directly.
Well, I mean, that's innocence by time. Give him time and he'll kill plenty of people. So, and, that's a good point. I mean, I posted a meme on the Facebook just the other day. It was something to the effect of Trump, I hate Muslims, liberals, boo, and then Hillary says, I'm going to go kill a bunch of Muslims, and they cheer, or something to that effect. Yeah, I mean, her policy, the worst case scenario of Trump, overseas at least, is already happening in the last 16 years. I think the scary thing with Trump, I think, is just the sheer divisiveness in terms of race and class that are going to come about under his presidency. But yeah, I mean, like Nick said, it's pick your poison.
Yeah, I saw this. Actually, we used a meme about a month or two ago to promote the show, and it was actually, it said, vote for Clinton for World War III, vote for Trump for Civil War II. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, that's like kind of true. And so one thing that's really important this time around is, first of all, there's not going to be nearly enough people that think they're anarchists to be abstaining from the vote to actually really make a difference, even though I consider myself a person that's going to be abstaining this year. But what we do have is two viable options in Jill Stein for the people on the left and in the middle, and then Gary Johnson for the people on the right and also people in the middle. And so these two candidates are not perfect by any means, but you put Gary Johnson and Jill Stein on the debate stage with Trump and Clinton, and something major could change.
Yes, that's what needs to happen, is that more voices need to be heard. The problem with the two-party system right now is just simply people aren't even aware of there being other options to the democracy right now. But DB, I'm really, you really think that there's going to be a walkout at the DNC?
Absolutely. And here's what I think is going to happen. I think that Bernie's endorsement was a way to show that there's really no hope for her when you look at polls. I mean, there really is not. When she gets dragged through the muck, it's over. So, I mean, the DNC is going to decide here whether the Democratic Party wants to actually try to win or whether the Clinton machine's just too powerful and they can't let it go. And then what's going to happen is, you know, surprise, surprise, I'm sure Bernie's going to say, well, then fuck it, because you're not going to go with any of my agenda, any of my policies, any of the things I promised people I would do if I got in. I sincerely hope and wish, because of the way that Cornel West moved over, I hope he takes that spot and goes with Joe Stein as his VP.
That was
because
amazing.
if he runs Green Party, yeah.
I hope you're right on both of those. I hope the party realizes that they can't win with Hillary, and I hope Bernie goes rogue. I really hope you're right. I don't think either of them are going to happen. Maybe I'm just an eternal cynic at this point.
And it depends, you know. Yeah, because assassination's a reality. So it depends on if, one, can he get Secret Service protection back on him because they took that off him, which I'm sure scared the shit out of him. And two, is being in the Green Party enough? Like, do they have enough funding? Will they start pulling enough funding? I don't know.
Well, you know, this is what I see happening here is if there isn't a major challenge from either of the third parties, if the Libertarians are peaking out right now, because right now, last poll I saw was Gary Johnson at 13%, which is really close to the 15% threshold needed to get him into the debates. If it turns out that he's peaked out, and if it turns out that there isn't a widespread shift from people leaving the Democratic Party over to the Green Party, and we wind up with it coming down to strictly between Trump and Clinton, here's a scenario that I see playing out is that pretty much the entire political establishment is going to be pulling for Hillary Clinton, including the media, the neocons, the Democratic establishment, and all the financiers that finance both parties, Goldman Sachs, the banking industry, Wall Street, the military-industrial complex. They're all going to be shifting over behind Hillary Clinton. And if events continue happening, which have been happening lately, which would include all these terror attacks and the people, killing the police and the police brutality and all that stuff happening, all that stuff does is weaken Hillary Clinton's argument, and it strengthens Donald Trump's. Not saying that he's right or anything, but because of the emotional, reactionary, what do you call it, nationalist fervor that's spreading around the world right now, especially in the Western, in Western countries, all of the stars are basically aligning for Donald Trump, no matter how stupid and how many mistakes his campaign makes. Like over the past month and a half, Donald Trump has made mistake after mistake after mistake, and his poll numbers have not really been hurt. But Clinton, her poll numbers have been going down. I mean, even after the Bernie endorsement, the latest poll I saw, her numbers have ticked down to the point where she's basically even with Donald Trump on every poll, or at least within the margin of error. There's even a one or two polls that show Donald Trump with a 1 or 2 point lead. Donald Trump is going to have the populist movement. He's going to have the passionate populist, activists out there. I wouldn't really call them activists, but maybe quote unquote activists that are out there fighting for Trump and spreading out, doing the, what do they call it, canvassing for Trump and all that stuff. Hillary Clinton doesn't inspire anybody. I don't know anybody inspired by Hillary Clinton. She has plenty of voters. She's got the older female Democratic vote tied up. She's got the older Democrat vote tied up in general. But she doesn't inspire anybody, and I don't see 65-year-old people out there beating the streets for Hillary Clinton. I could see 30-year-old angry white folks out there canvassing for Donald Trump. I could definitely see that happening. But Donald Trump is going to definitely have the groundswell, and Hillary Clinton is going to be the establishment from both aisles. She's going to have the neocon Republican establishment and the Democratic establishment. So it's going to be like a huge force behind Clinton, which is all kind of fake political forces, money, power, that kind of thing. Trump is going to have the popular support. So this is going to be a head-on collision, and if it does wind up that Clinton wins, and if there are kind of irregularities with the voting and stuff, there's going to be some really, really angry Donald Trump supporters out there that are going to be doing some crazy stuff if that happens. So, I mean, this is not a election to take lightly, and it's going to have very consequential, realities in the future here. And we got to do everything we can to hopefully prevent that from happening. So, I mean, it's just this is I've heard older people that have lived through a long time, been through the '60s and stuff, that are saying they haven't seen times like this in a long time. So, we got to be really careful about how this thing plays out.
It's something always we kind of mention too is the millennial generation is absolutely massive. It's the biggest boom of people born, 73 million people. I mean, you're talking about one generation that's larger than, I don't know, probably 90% of the world's countries. And honestly, they're apathetic. They're glued to Pokemon Go. A lot of them are ungainfully unemployed or partially employed, dude. But if their parents or whoever's their support system or whatever's keeping them out of being homeless collapses, that's 73 million people that are all kind of young. And a lot of them have degrees, and a lot of them, despite their apathy and laziness, are really smart. They've just been brainwashed. And what happens when the veil's uncovered, man? I mean, that's what we're on the precipice of in reality. It's nothing so crazy as a revolution's about to hit and blood will be in the streets. It's just going to be 73 million people that are just like, fuck it. I don't want to do this anymore.
Right, which would cause a kind of an economic kamikaze. But, I mean, that's exactly with the rise of automation and artificial intelligence. So I think the power forces running the economy, I think they'll be able to skate by on that, which I guess would be why I think the election will be decided by who steals it, and whoever steals it is whoever has the biggest political machinery on their side. And I think that's Clinton. And I think it's just a matter of who can pull the right levers to steal the election. I've been saying that for a while.
Yeah, you're right. Clinton definitely has a political machine, and like I said, she's going to benefit from both political machines, not only the Democrats but the Republicans. Donald Trump is too unpredictable. He's not favored by the people who want a guaranteed, gravy train from foreign policy and stuff. Donald Trump is too friendly with Russia. He's too friendly on these nationalist dictators in the Middle East. I've heard him defend Saddam Hussein. I've heard him defend Gaddafi. I mean, not saying that I take anything seriously that he's saying, but at face value, Trump is not nearly as guaranteed to start regional conflicts around the world as Hillary Clinton is. So just for that fact alone, she's going to have the defense establishment backing her and all of the major machinery that keeps the empire going.
But in reality, as despised as she is in reality, and as hated as she is around the world and feared by other leaders because of her political machinery and her literal murder machine that's behind it, you're going to possibly see something where rank and file people in the military don't want to follow insane orders like, hey, go attack Russia on the Turkish border with NATO. And paratroop in, you'll be good. Our military is so advanced, we're good. One EMP and we're back to World War II. Tech. I mean, that's what it is. So there's a possibility, man. And what we just saw in Turkey was fake. Imagine a real military coup here. That's a possibility, man. Because if I'm a rank and file guy in the military, I'm thinking, oh shit, if Hillary gets in, we're fighting Russia or China or both. That's not looking good for me.
It's not. So
didn't one of those generals come out and say that and again, I'm not trying to defend Clinton. I just can't imagine people getting on board. But the general for the army came right out and said he didn't think that rank and file people in the military would take orders from Trump.
That's
you think they're going to listen to? You think they're going to listen to Trump? And Trump's going to do. He'll do the same thing that Clinton's going to do. You really think these people have the capability of going up against who's really running things? I mean, it's just.
Who's running it though?
I don't know, but
do we agree? Do we think we know the deep state's like a couple things, right? We know it's like banking. We know it's military, right? But like ultimately, at the end of the day, if the bankers crash the economy, and guys in the military lose all their possessions, they're just going to go kill those bankers. So, I mean, you're going to have Blackwater and XC looking for bankers around the world, and they're not going to survive those guys. So we know who runs the world right now. The military-industrial complex of the United States of America runs the world.
Yeah, interesting stuff. I hear what you're saying, Jake, but at the same time, if you look at the donations from the military guys, the active duty, Trump's actually getting the most donations. He's outpacing Clinton by a significant amount. So
do you think that they think that Trump's not going to do the same thing as Hillary? Is that what the thinking is here?
He will not fight Russia. He will fight China if needed. He will not fight Russia.
You really think Clinton's going to fight Russia?
Yeah, she's stupid enough to do it. Yeah, absolutely.
She's just going to continue Middle East stuff. That the Project for a New American Century was all about just Middle East countries. They're not trying to.
No. It was Iran and then Russia and then China and then that was it. That was the order.
We talked about this last show, and these big countries, Russia, China, the U.S., they can't really directly fight each other because it's mutually assured destruction, right? As we've talked about before, it's all about these proxy wars that they're fighting, and Syria is like the front line right now. Ukraine is a little bit of a secondary, but Syria is the front line between the U.S. and Russia right now. That's where the main proxy war is being fought. And, as you saw yesterday, one of our airstrikes killed upwards of 100 civilians in Syria. One of our U.S.-backed rebel groups beheaded a 10-year-old boy yesterday. We've got this proxy war. I don't think that not even Hillary Clinton is dumb enough to try to directly fight Russia, but, she's already advocated a no-fly zone in Syria. A no-fly zone in Syria would instantly trigger a much broader conflict between, just a much higher escalation of the proxy war.
Doesn't it trigger full NATO involvement, which is why Aragon just pulled the coup, because now he has full control and he'll order his own military to their own suicidal deaths fighting Russia? They're the first wave. That was what it was all about.
It could be. It could be, but I just, looking back at 2012 and the guys the guy who was supported by the military, the rank and file active duty military back then was Ron Paul. And if you remember, what Ron Paul ran on was a very humble foreign policy, non-intervention. And I feel like these guys in the military, the reason why Trump is getting more donations, they just feel in general that he's probably less likely to put their lives at risk. And that Clinton has been pretty sloppy with what she's willing to do, with whether it be Libya, Syria, or any other involvement, or her vote for the Iraq war and things like that. I feel like these guys deep down in the military probably just think Trump is a little bit less likely to put their lives at risk, and that's why they're supporting him.
Clinton's already proved she doesn't give two shits about soldiers' lives. Look at Benghazi.
Exactly. Now that general that Jake was talking about, he was probably speaking on behalf of like the commanders and stuff in the army, because those guys, from what I can see, most of them like being involved in these conflicts. They like using their weapons and their tools and their toys and their technology. And
sorry to interrupt, but the corporations that make the money off of these wars, on the backdoor end, they'll hire the generals to come in and get a stake in the company, and that's how it works. That's how the deep state works. The war is benefiting the major people that run the military-industrial complex.
Exactly, and so these guys, the bottom line is these guys make a bunch of money from these wars. A lot of these military, the deep state, these military-industrial complex, they have their tentacles in the media, and so they use the mainstream media to sell us on these wars. They use the mainstream media to make people feel Islamophobic and to dehumanize people in the Middle East, because they know that that's where the proxy battleground is at. They have to dehumanize people in the Middle East because otherwise people would actually care. If we drone bombed 100 people like we did yesterday, you would actually see people in the United States actually care about people dying, innocent people dying, but they don't. People in the United States can give two shits about thousands and thousands of innocent people dying in Syria or Iraq. They don't give a shit about it because the media has been so effective after 9/11 in dehumanizing Muslims and brown people in general. They don't give a shit. And then the people that are fleeing from these countries that are being decimated by our airstrikes and by our proxy wars and by this, the rebels and by Assad and by Russia, everybody's bombing over there. And these poor people are trying to flee from the country where their homes are being destroyed, their family members are being killed. And the people in Europe and the United States are blaming the refugees as if it's their fault. It's like, no, these refugees are bad. We got to keep them from coming into our country. It's like, how about you start keeping your bombs from going into their country, and then we might not have these refugee crises. That's what pisses me off the most about Trump. Trump is selling everybody this emotional, huge distraction, whether it's the border security or stemming the flow of immigrants. It's a huge distraction because he's not addressing the underlying issue here, which is that we're creating a bunch of these refugees. And that's why I have zero respect for Trump. I think everything he says is pretty much bullshit. He's literally just tapping into these fears that have been built up in people since 9/11. The media has been telling people to think like Trump, to think like what Trump is saying for 15 years. They've been telling people to think that way for 15 years. And all of a sudden, a guy comes along and he's actually saying what the media has been telling people to think. And then the media is like, oh my God, I can't believe Trump is saying that he wants to ban Muslims from entering the country. It's like, you guys did the footwork to make a guy like this popular. You know what I'm saying? This to me is what makes me like rip my hair out, because the media pretends like, oh my God, Trump is saying these crazy things. I can't believe it, especially the Washington Post.
And Nick, he's going to tone it down too when they get going in the general debates. He'll have to, because he's going to have to appeal more to the people in the middle. And also, all the things he proposes to do, he'll never get them through Congress or anything. So,
Right.
What we kind of look for in Trump, best case scenario, he's an incompetent buffoon and an actor, and he's using this to become an actual billionaire instead of what he says he is. And he's close to a billionaire, but he's not there yet. And he just wants to get into the upper winner circle. He'll be a 4-year term guy. He'll be a flop, and then hopefully the Democrats by then will be completely taken over by progressives. We can only hope.
We'll see, man. And so, all that stuff being said, let's get on to this speech by Melania Trump. I want to know what you guys think, because I have two prevailing theories here. Because first of all, it being an accident, I don't believe that at all. So for one, is it a huge PR stunt, and it was done on purpose? Or two, do you guys think that it was espionage and someone that's within the Trump campaign was like trying to sabotage the speech? I mean, those are the only two like legitimate theories that I can think of that are actually plausible, because I just don't think this type of thing could happen on accident. What do you guys think?
I think that the third option is the most likely is there is a repeat in the Matrix.
Yeah, DB's right. A glitch in the Matrix. But, I was thinking the other day, I hate this story so much, frankly, but I was thinking, like, who was sitting there with Copyscape.com open while they were listening to that speech and instantly ran that speech through to check for plagiarism? Because that story came out, it was like literally almost instantaneous after her speech that Huffington Post was running that story. So yeah, to your point, Nick, I don't, it really feels fishy how contrived that whole thing popped up. It definitely could have been espionage. I don't know who would have, on the Democratic side or on like a Ted Cruz side who did not endorse Trump tonight.
Could be, man. I'm
Ted. Yeah, it was Ted.
I'm not sure, but so yesterday I wrote an article about this speech. I was reading through the statement that came out the next day, that came out from Melania Trump's Facebook page, and I had a pretty big revelation about this statement, because it was just, to me, I couldn't believe that they put this statement out, because it was just ridiculous. And I'm just going to read it because it's really short. In writing her beautiful speech, Melania's team of writers took notes on her life's inspirations, and in some instances included fragments that reflected her own thinking. Melania's immigrant experience and love for America shone through in her speech, which made it such a huge success. Whatever. Anyway, the part that I highlighted here, and I wrote an article about this yesterday, is where it says some instances included fragments that reflected her own thinking. And I was just like, who is the same guy that wrote the speech now writing her statements? Because this is ridiculous. I mean, aren't we supposed to be led to believe that these people are kind of like almost like writing their own speeches for the most part, and that there's just someone helping them write them, and that it's like mostly their ideas? I mean, they're admitting here that it's like, okay, mostly someone else wrote this, and she was just up there on screen as an actor reading off the teleprompter.
No,
Probably deep
fragments
blue.
of it were her own thoughts, though.
Yeah, fragments, definitely.
I was going to say they probably just had IBM's Deep Blue or whatever Watson writing this crap now.
What was that Twitter bot that Microsoft had for a while that turned into a fascist?
It was a fascist racist. It was like
Yeah.
the worst person of all time.
Tay something.
Tay Trump, right? There you go.
Tay Trump, yeah.
Yeah, so Tay Trump, the Microsoft Twitter bot that turned into a fascist racist overnight, kind of like Trump, wrote the speech for Melania, right? But anyway, my article is about kind of looking at the bigger picture here, is that the majority of these politicians and public figures like Trump, like Obama, like Melania, they're not writing their own stuff. In fact, they may have small fragments of their own thought, but I'd be more than likely to believe that almost all of these speeches are just cooked up by, focus groups and think tanks and just writers and people that are just taking polls and then writing speeches after taking a poll. And that's exactly, I think, how Trump designs all of his rhetoric. Is he takes polls, he finds out what scares people, which is Muslims and the border, and then he goes out and he says exactly what people are scared of. But the bigger point here is that these politicians they're actors, dude. They're good at reading scripts off a teleprompter, and that's basically all they are now. These politicians don't do any of their own thinking. They got a bunch of advisors. They got a bunch of lobbyists. I mean, in many cases, the lobbyists literally verbatim write the laws. I have this linked in the article here. If you guys want to go check it out, it's called "What Everyone Is Missing About Melania Trump's Plagiarized Speech." But these politicians that we have in the United States are empty suits. Everyone's like, you got it wrong, dude. Trump speaks from the heart. He speaks off the cuff. And it's like, no, dude. Trump took a bunch of polls and he says exactly what you guys are thinking. And that's all it is. Trump is more scripted than Clinton. Trump is more scripted than Clinton. It's just that his sound bites are so small that it seems like he's thinking of it himself. He takes polls and he finds out what you're afraid of and he says it. But I'm really glad this article took off, and SM Gibson made an awesome meme that I put in at the end there. But it kind of reinforces what Ron Paul said recently, which is that these elections are entertainment value only, orchestrated by the media. I have that article linked in there too. Anyway, now we're being joined by our awesome editor, Carrie Wedler. What's up, Carrie?
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
So, what do you think about this Melania speech? I know you've been trying to avoid it, but what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I'm with you, and I think your article yesterday really captured what the problem is, which is that, as we're talking about, these politicians aren't authentic, they're not original thinkers, they're propped up by immense teams and huge corporations and all the things that we always talk about at anti-media. But I think what's the creepiest to me is that people are okay with it. Like, they've been conditioned to accept that politicians speak off teleprompters, and they're fine with Donald Trump being an entertainer. Like, they love that he's an entertainer. You see the way they laugh at his, like, sarcastic comments. Like, they're so into it, and they're so entertained. And I think that's the hardest part for me to accept, is that people are mad that they've stolen a speech, but they have as we're talking about, they have no problem with the fact that these people they're ciphers. That's all they are.
And then you got the people, even worse, that are like defending the plagiarism too. People are like hardcore defending it, man. And I'm just like, Jesus, these people have no bottom. Is there no rock bottom that are not willing to cross to lay down and let Donald Trump walk over them?
Well, they've already formed that emotional bond. That's the thing. I think people have less of an emotional bond to Hillary, and they think they're being pragmatic by voting for her. Like, well, we can't do Donald Trump. But with the Donald Trump crowd, it's like they're so emotionally attached. And you notice when you talk to Trump supporters especially, although it was a lot with Bernie supporters and also Hillary supporters, is there's a lot of like, well, I feel this, and I believe this, and I don't believe he actually means this. And so it's we're projecting these assumptions onto these politicians because they're telling us what we want to hear.
Donald Trump is building a religious movement around himself, but he's like the deity, and they'll do whatever in the hell he wants, which is dangerous. That's the scary part here, is that Trump is Trump, if he does wind up being elected, which I still think it's a long shot, I still think Hillary's going to have all of the machinery behind her. And, Trump is going to be, like you said, Kerry, he's got the fervent followers that are very emotional, and, they could swing it for him. You never know. But if they do, I mean, if you look back at the Nazis and how Hitler came up, and I hate making these comparisons, but right now it's relevant. I mean, Hitler had these militias for him that when they would put down protests, because I was looking at I was watching this awesome video earlier. It was like a TED video or something, but someone made this animated video about Hitler's rise to power, and it was about how did Hitler come to power in a democratic society, because he initially gained his political power democratically. I mean, he tried for a coup and all that. It failed. He went to jail. He came back out, but then he won an election. He became the Chancellor of Germany, and then that's how he started concentrating his power by using a false flag with the Reichstag and, various other things. But one thing I realized, and that's something very similar that's going on with Trump, is that, Trump is very capable of stirring up militia movements that can go out and violently put down his opposition. And you're already seeing that happening. These guys, the bikers for Trump that showed up over at the RNC, I mean, that's basically what Hitler had. And there's militias and the Minutemen, which was a group out there supporting Trump. A lot of these 3%ers, and unfortunately the Oath Keepers, which everybody thought was some kind of libertarian organization, they're leaning towards Trump. I mean, these are the militias that are already there that could easily violently go out and put down the opposition to Trump. I mean, the ingredients are here, and it's not quite there yet, but the ingredients are there for Trump to really seize power. If he became president and some major terrorist attack happened or something, Trump is the type of personality with the people that support him so religiously and so emotionally, he could really aggregate his power into a pseudo dictator pretty easily, and that's what I'm worried about.
Nick, I saw that same video. It's funny these are saying this, because I had that exact thought when it showed how Hitler only consolidated his power once he was chancellor, and he got these private groups to go around and do his bidding for him. And I had the exact same thought that, man, that sounds a lot like what Trump is doing right now.
Well, I'm curious to you guys, what do you think, what would it take for a diehard Trump supporter to renounce their support for him? What would he have to do? Because so far, there's been nothing. And I'm just curious, where...
Well, he can go down to Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and they would still support him.
Exactly.
He said that himself. I'm just saying.
And they're like,
no, he could literally say, "My followers are idiots," and they would cheer it on. I mean,
all we need to do is get footage of Trump making out with Hillary in the back, and his campaign's over.
all right, there's a theory.
Oh man, I would not want to see that video.
false flag Hillary makeout session.
With Bill doing the reach arounds.
Oh God,
dude, what's with this imagery, man? I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight.
Kerry, to your question though, I don't know what he could do. I'm trying to think of. He just keeps contradicting himself. I mean, they're anti-government, but they want government for some things. Classic conservative position. I really don't think it has anything to do with policy at this point. They just want someone who talks the talk on being different, and basically Trump is just a lightning rod for racists. He's giving a voice to white nationalists that they haven't had in a while, and that's why there's so much weird ground level momentum for him, is that there's just a lot of racism in America and we forgot about it, but it's still here.
Well, I'm wondering because I just thought of this right now, and I'm wondering if he renounced America in general, because I feel like people have he's tapped so much into the Make America Great Again. It's America that's under attack, and it's so much centered on
Make America Safe Again. That's the
Make
new
America
slogan.
Safe Again. Yeah. And I wonder, how would an average Trump supporter, wearing an American flag hat, celebrating the 4th of July, how would they react if Trump was you know what? America sucks. It's actually just been imperialistic bullshit this whole time. You've been lied to. Would that do it?
No, they would still love him. The only thing Trump could do is say, "I like black people." That's the only thing he could do.
Oh, yeah. They'd be like, "Oh, okay, you crossed the line there, buddy."
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter. If Trump said Black Lives Matter, that would do it.
Seriously.
There was actually a video. I can't find it now. I was going to try to pull it up and play it, but there was a video of someone when it was going around asking Trump supporters what it would actually take for them to not support him, and like this video was extreme. They said some really horrible things, and they were like, "Nope, wouldn't change it. Wouldn't change it."
Wow.
I mean, these people, the light switch has been turned off in their heads. Like nothing you can do now at this point would change their support for Trump. So again, that's another dangerous thing. With Clinton, I think the same thing has happened, but they're just kind of pragmatic people. Like, well, I don't care what you say. I'm not voting third party. I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to vote for Clinton strictly because I don't want Trump to win. And so, the switch has been turned off over there too, but in a different kind of way, not as emotional, but just out of fear.
Which is the ultimate emotion, really.
Yeah.
On both sides.
Well, it's the flip of 2008 when it was all emotion on the left and nothing on the right, and now it's all emotion on the right and just this brain dead robotic structural voting on the left.
Something I find interesting, there was a poll that came out, it was a worldwide survey by a reputable polling service, and there's something going on out here. There's a bunch of sirens going on. We're not at the RNC, so don't worry about that. Anyway, there was a poll that was conducted, I want to say it was like around 6 months ago, and it asked everybody around the world if they were like afraid, and if they were scared, and if they were safe, and if their country was safe, and these kind of questions. And Americans polled very high up on the insecure, like scared, our country is not safe. But then the poll also compared like the hard numbers of the actual like crime statistics and violence statistics and stuff. And America in general is a very safe country compared to the rest of the world. But the American public, they believe that it's very unsafe and that it's very dangerous and that it's, that we're not safe at all when you go outside and walk around on the street. In fact, it showed that Americans were more scared than Egyptians. Americans felt that they were more susceptible to violence in the public than Egyptians are. And Egyptians have just gone through like 3 revolutions, and there's like terrorism and dictatorships and just horrible shit going on in Egypt. But Americans are more afraid in their day-to-day lives than Egyptians are. And you have to definitely credit this to fear-mongering politicians and the media that just kind of, regurgitates these fear-mongering talking points. And again, it goes back to 9/11. They've been having to manufacture this sense of fear down everybody's throats because if not, they couldn't justify this empire going on around the world. And that's, to me, what it boils down to. Trump, again, like I mentioned earlier in the show, Trump, all he's done is tap directly into the fear that's been built up since 9/11. Hillary Clinton, indirectly taps into it. My experience on foreign policy, and I'll keep you guys safe, and I'll do this, that, and the other. Trump is sticking the knife right into the back of the fear mongering, saying, "Look, I'm tapping right into this with the IV." And that's exactly why he's getting all this support. It was manufactured by years and years of propaganda, and that's why I think that he's got a very, very good chance of winning. I mean, and Carrie, you and me were talking about this, I think yesterday, the day before. Everything, all the equations are lining up for Trump. They're making it perfect for him.
Yeah, it's really scary to me, and it's it never ceases to amaze me that these Trump nationalists are so America's the best, America's brave, and we're this and that, and they're trembling under their sheets, and then they think the solution to their problems and to all of this fear is to delegate bombing other people to other people that aren't them, but they'll still talk in this collective we gotta go kill Muslims, which is that. I don't think so. I think you're just watching Fox News at home. Where's the we coming from? And so it's the propaganda, absolutely, and it's so effective that people are total hypocrites and they can't see it right in front of their faces, which is hilarious, but also really sad.
And we posted this really good meme the other day, and I know it got under a bunch of people's skins. But it was a 4-paneled meme. On the left-hand side, it was a picture of these Black Lives Matter guys blocking a road, and then on the right, it was this angry guy on the internet. And he's like, "Just run them over already!" You know what I mean? And I've seen that so many times. If they blocked the road in front of me, I'd just be running them over. And people talking about treating them like bowling pins and shit like that. And then you got on the bottom half of the meme, it's the Nice attack where this guy ran over a bunch of people in France, in a terror attack, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that monster would do something like that." It's there's a huge disconnect from reality with a lot of these people. And one of my buddies is over at the RNC, and he's actually a Jewish guy, but he's kind of wearing the Muslim attire, and he's out there armed, and he's a Jewish guy, but he's definitely one of the people that is like standing up for Palestinian rights, and you know he's against he's an activist, you know, he's against all these empire building in the Middle East and stuff, and he's out there with a rifle, and he's dressed as a Muslim, and all these, you know, keyboard warriors out there that are supporting Trump. Nobody's confronted him. No one's been telling him to go home. I mean, nobody's had the balls to go up to him and do anything. I mean, these guys on the internet, I think the country is completely fucked and it's completely divided. But it isn't quite as bad as it would seem on the internet because these people are just keyboard warriors, dude. They can say all this shit, oh, Black Lives Matter is this, Black Lives Matter is that, we need to kill Muslims, we need to ban Mexicans and stuff. But then in their real life, they hire a Mexican dude to do stuff for them. They have business customers that are Muslim. I mean, they're
dude. Where would they get all that coke if the border was closed?
Exactly. And where are they gonna get all their opiate painkillers that everybody's addicted to if we banned if we banned Muslims from coming into the country? I mean, all those painkillers come from Muslim countries. So you know. It's just interesting to see that these guys are just a bunch of keyboard warriors in real life. The most part, you know, they're a bunch of pansies, dude. They ain't gonna do shit, and they just want to empower someone else to do their bidding, and that's why they like Trump.
And to add to that, just because I have so much experience with keyboard warriors and online commenters, and it took me a really long time to learn, you know, just to touch on what you said about maybe it's not as bad as it seems online, but like take these people, think of these people who are like typing in all capitals with like typos because they're typing in such a rage. Like most people aren't so angry and so filled with rage that they have to go scream at strangers on the internet. Like I've learned that it is such an extreme end of the spectrum that it's, on one hand, it's really depressing because I have to look at it every day, but on the other, it's kind of reassuring to know that the average American probably isn't that much of a radical. But who knows?
How many of them could be paid? Like paid agitators?
I'm sure that's a great point because I'm sure there are plenty of those.
My buddy was messaging me the other day. He has a big Facebook page, and we posted something about. We posted that article about how documents came out that showed that Israeli police are allowed to gun down kids that are throwing rocks at the IDF and at police, and they're actually allowed to kill them, and it's legal in Israel to do that. And we shared this article on his page, and literally within, I think, 1 minute, the top comment had like 30-something likes and a bunch of replies, and it was like this pro-Israel rant, you know, and it had like just this huge artificial amount of inflation. And it was like on this comment.
Yeah. Well, you know how it's right?
Yeah. And so there's a bunch of, you know, there definitely are paid sock puppets. And and troll accounts online that help control the narratives or hijack conversations and things like that. I mean, several of the leaks that we've got, I can't remember if it came out. I don't think it was from Snowden. I think it was before that. That really showed about the sock puppets. It may have come from Chelsea Manning's leaks. You know, this kind of stuff is employed, and it's not really a secret. No one likes to believe it, but it's being done.
They spend tens of millions, I mean, maybe even more than that. They spend obscene amounts of money trying to control the flow of information on the internet. And they haven't been able to do it through fast lanes and slow lanes yet. So what they have to do now is just, you know, create. They pay people. There's people that sit around and they get paid by the government every day to maintain about 10 to 20 profiles or 5 to 10 profiles. I don't know the logistics of it, but it's like you said, it's pretty much been proven at this point. So it sounds like a good job, frankly.
It does, man. Job security for sure.
Trolling.
There was you know what it was? I remember now. It was a guy. He was a whistleblower. That was actually his job, and he spoke out about it. And it was very secretive. They didn't give him very much information, but yeah, he managed a bunch of different social media profiles, and his job was to go in and like hijack conversations and change the subjects and things like that. So, you know, this is stuff that's happening. It really is.
I didn't know there was an actual whistleblower for that yet.
Yeah, there was a guy that spoke out about it. So let's shift gears here because I'm tired of talking about the RNC and all that shit. There's a great article up if anyone wants to go further into the RNC. The RNC speech you probably didn't hear about is fucking frightening. That's our latest story on the anti-media. Go check that out. It's about Rudy What's his name, dude? I can't even remember his name.
Rudy Giuliani.
Rudy Jew.
Rudy Giuliani, he gave a very fear-mongering speech at the RNC. I mean, come on, this is the guy that was in charge of New York City when the 9/11 happened. So
He did a great job, Nick.
and then the next day he gave an interview with The Intercept, and he bragged about being the guy that put cops into mosques. He bragged about it. You know, the great thing to brag about in the United States, being a politician and undermining your First Amendment freedom of speech and, you know, religious liberty rights. A great thing to brag about.
It's like, know your audience, dude. The Intercept, like, why are you going to brag about that? You know what they write about.
Oh, man. Turkey, man, Erdogan is cracking down over there. So go check that out as well. We've got we actually had really good stories today. There's another story about the Regent drug test. It's this $2 test that cops are using to really pin drug charges on people. Many times these people are innocent, but rather than risking getting a harsher sentence by pleading not guilty, they just plead guilty to it. So like innocent people are going to jail with this $2 drug test. So check that out. We got something about how memes have been destroying people's lives. Not really my typical stuff we talk about on the radio today, especially since we've probably employed some of these memes a few times. But it really is interesting. It's about how like some people inadvertently, they just they have pictures or videos and they wind up on the internet and they get made into a meme, and not much is known about the people who are behind these memes, who's in the photo. And unfortunately, a lot of times these memes like really mess people's lives up. It's really sad. So check that out. I know there was a big story I wanted to talk about. Carrie, let's talk about this one with WikiLeaks, because this Turkish thing is really big. Because we talked about it earlier with DB about how Turkey is just really on the front line of NATO, and it's playing a key role. I mean, the revelations came out not too long ago that Turkey was helping to buy oil from ISIS, therefore, kind of indirectly, or other allegations say they're directly helping ISIS. And now with this coup, I mean, they've either arrested or suspended like 60,000 people. 60,000 people. I mean, that's a lot of people to purge from the government. So it definitely seems like Erdogan is trying to seize power for everything it's worth. And recently, he's talked pretty kindly of Hitler. I don't know. Do you remember that? He had a quote the other day where he was like he was like praising Hitler, and then I saw a post yesterday where he indirectly said he wanted similar powers to what Hitler had. I mean, this guy is not a nice guy. But WikiLeaks had a bunch of information to dump that they had gathered like a week before the coup, and as they were getting ready to release this information to the public, they mysteriously came under cyber attack, and their website basically was going down. We were trying to access it, and it was just really inaccessible, server errors, things like that. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with this WikiLeaks thing.
Sure. Well, they're saying they prevailed. They announced shortly after the coup that they would be releasing hundreds of thousands. Well, first they said 100,000, and then they upped it to almost 300,000 of documents and internal emails within the AKP party, which is Erdogan's party. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But essentially, shortly after they announced it, and they were hyping it up quite a bit. You can see they have a lot of tweets about it. But shortly after, they came under attack, and they don't know who was doing the attacking, but clearly someone that didn't want AKP information coming out. But it's so hard to say, and I think that's what I find really interesting about this story and about what's going on in Turkey right now, is that on one hand, it's kind of predictable. Like, okay, WikiLeaks is going to leak information that powerful people don't want leaked, so they're going to try to shut them down. Like, there isn't really anything special about that, but I think the attack in and of itself, combined with the way that Erdogan is cracking down, it's really shattering narratives. Because for a long time, independent media outlets have sort of been chipping away at the narrative that America's allies in the Middle East are like very good and nice and moral, and they support democracy.
Yeah, like Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's a beacon of freedom around the world, right?
Exactly.
So we're supposed to believe.
Exactly, but at the end of the day, Saudi Arabia is still blatantly a regime. Like it's a monarchy, and they're authoritarians. But if you look at Turkey, that's sort of, I don't think Americans know much about Turkey. Not to say they do about Saudi Arabia, but Turkey just sort of seems like, it's a democracy. They have a democratically elected leader. And so this one, I think, has always, people just assume, okay, they're in NATO, they're good, they must support the United States, everything's great. But seeing the way that he's cracking down, I think is really challenging the narratives that people believe. And he's been cracking down for a while, but seeing how reactionary he's been to the coup, I mean, taking out 60,000 people, I mean, that's total of like people who have been, I think it's detained, purged, or suspended from their jobs. But 60,000 people, that is a huge amount of people just to try to weed out some rats or whatever you want to call them.
And the EU has basically came out and said, look, Erdogan had this list already compiled before the coup. Like, he was ready to implement this. He was just waiting for the right time. And that has led to plenty of theories that have speculated that maybe, maybe that maybe that the coup was orchestrated by Erdogan and his cohorts, or other allegations from within Erdogan's sphere have said that the U.S. or this cleric or this, what is he, a priest, or I don't know what you call him, this dude that's in the U.S. was behind it, and therefore the U.S. is indirectly responsible for it. Plenty of different suspicions going around, but I mean, sure does seem fishy that within a week of the coup that he's purged 60,000 people. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And here's the other thing. WikiLeaks is being blocked in Turkey right now, right? Mm-hmm. Our website was previously blocked in Turkey. Turkey's got like 500,000 websites that aren't allowed to, Turkish people aren't allowed to access. When this thing was going down, I had a buddy in Turkey. He wasn't able to get on Facebook. Luckily, he knows how to use the internet, and he has like Tor, and he used the Onion router, whatever. I don't even know how to use that, but my friend did, and he was able to get out and say, look, I'm safe, and I can access it, but I have to go through like proxies and all this stuff. I mean, the fact that the U.S. is turning a blind eye to, and I haven't seen any statements from the United States condemning the actions of this purge, and I haven't seen any statements from the United States condemning the shutting down of social media or the censorship of information. I mean, we're just led to believe that Turkey is a democratic country. Turkey is not a democratic country, and under Erdogan, they were. They had a revolution, I think, what was it, in the 50s, and they established a secular democracy, and it was pretty decent for a while. But under Erdogan, man, this guy has been centralizing his power, and now he's almost become a dictator. And this is getting really dangerous. They're part of NATO. If they cause something to happen with Russia or with Iran or with somebody, everybody gets dragged into this. And then this is exactly what, this is very similar to what caused World War I. One guy gets shot, and then the whole world has to declare war because they have all these alliances. NATO is that same old alliance that's been going on that we should have learned our lesson from. I mean, plenty of the founding fathers said, hey, look, let's not entangle ourselves in these alliances. Nobody listened to them. NATO is a huge entangling alliance. If Turkey, who is now almost being run by a dictator, winds up causing something, it could trigger a global war, and the U.S. will be dragged in. All of our friends and family, little brothers, sisters, people we know, may be drafted into the war to go fight because of Turkey's ass.
Well, in Turkey,
even women.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, for the first time in the U.S. history, even women are going to be in this draft. I mean, that's all out.
Well, thank God we have equality, right?
Yay. And what I was going to say is Turkey has already shown its willingness to be pretty. It was in its airspace for 19 seconds. Like, that's pretty extreme. And it's such a complex situation, and we have like no time left, so I don't want to start rambling about it. But yeah, I think that's a very tenuous net of alliances over there, and everything is just so scrambled and mixed up. I'm done.
If NATO actually gave a shit about democracy and about peace and about keeping things cool, they would have kicked Turkey out. As they know damn well what Erdogan is doing. It didn't take this coup and this purge. I mean, we've been covering Turkey pretty heavily ever since they shot down that Russian jet, because at that point, that was when we were like, oh shit, Turkey's going to war with Russia. We need to keep an eye on this. We need to report on this. We've been on this. Man, Turkey's been moving in a bad direction years now. I mean, kill over there, supposedly in a car accident, but it was coincidentally right after she reported that the Turkish government was actually giving weapons to, so Turkey's draft isn't bad.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.
This is Ozzy Skateboard.